What do you think teaching poker actually teaches? What did you see it teach your daughter and her friends? And why is it so valuable for people to learn poker in terms of navigating business?
Sure. So I think there's, the initial, right? We have a curriculum, and our first lesson is about courage, because getting to that table is a really big deal for girls, women, all ages to get to that table. I have to tell you, the more senior they are is often the more difficult to get them to the table. They are learning a litany of skills. Most important, in my opinion, are how to make decisions under pressure with incomplete information. So that is happening over and over again. And why it's important, because when you play poker, you have to play to win. You're not playing not to lose. And because if you're conservative in the game, you'll ultimately be what they call blinded out by the antes that have to go around every single part of the game. The other thing is strategy. Understanding strategy, generally speaking, in our play and our hobbies, I would say we get less experience doing this than boys and men do as they're growing up. Who am I playing? How are they playing? What position are they relative to me? And what are the different outcomes that are possible? The other thing is, for sure at the top of the list, is capital allocation. How do I use my resources? How do I use my chips to get more chips? And leveraging that ability in business and in life, right? We have our resources, we have our money, whatever those resources are, how do I use it most effectively to benefit the upside and protect the downside? And again, it's a mind shift. For me, when I look at the women in particular at my own company, because it's been there now for 28 years, and for us to elevate women to the most senior levels, where do they get stuck? And it's taking risk around money. They just do. And I don't think it's a problem per se, because if you want to keep going, you have to be good at doing that. And if you want to go to the next level, I literally had this conversation with a senior woman at our firm who has extraordinary skills, but her money skills and her ability to take risk around money have hit a ceiling, and she has to change. And she doesn't have to if she doesn't want to, but ultimately those money tables are where the power is. And if you want to affect change, you have to be comfortable at those tables.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So thinking about how what you're talking about here is managing risk, strategizing and making decisions with imperfect information. That to me sounds exactly like what you did in your career up until the point when you learned poker.
That's right.
So I'm wondering, was there something that you learned studying poker that you hadn't known despite having so much success in your career?
For sure. So there are two things with this, and they are crystal clear for me. One is I learned patience, the extraordinary amount of patience it takes to be strategic. I'm not known for my patience at all. And it's you have a lot of self-awareness when you start to play poker about your physical self, about your mental self. And you don't test yourself in that way anywhere else, especially as, I'm in my late 20s when we start our firm by ourselves, and there's nobody around me necessarily giving me the criticism. Like, how am I going to constructively get better every single day? And so I say, the other thing I say besides patience is I think I could have saved 10 years of losses off my career if I had learned poker sooner.
You could have shaved 10 years of losses off your career if you learned poker sooner.
Yep.
What does that even mean? And how so?
Because the errors that I made, so we talk about something called compound experience. Like, the more I get reps in, the more I understand, the more I learn, the more my baseline grows. So again, limiting my downside in certain scenarios that I understand and opening up the upside. And poker would have just given me more reps. Remember, I come into my job as an options trader, learning a skill. Like, you're an accountant and you learn how to do accounting. I learned how to do options trading. That's where I got my reps. When you talk about boys and men are doing that when they're 10 or 8, and then they do it again when they're 14, 16, and then they're doing it when they're 18. They're getting so many reps, and they're in so many different ways they're doing it. These days, of course, there's obviously so much retail trading going on, but there's also so much sports betting going on. They are taking those reps and getting those reps all the time. And I was a really, my co-founder and myself have very complementary skills, but I think I would have understood more about what he was doing and why he was making certain decisions, and then what I was countering with if I had been more informed. And I just had to get those reps myself because I had not had them. So as an options trader, I get certain kinds of reps. As a business builder, I get different kinds. So, and, I always talk about this long list of fails that we have, and we make sure, all of our senior leaders, they know it. We have it. Right now, I don't have a desk because we're in a new office, but it's usually right there, right next to me on my desk, just as a reminder. And I think embedding all of those mistakes, if I could have crunched them down in that window sooner, I would have just been in a different place.